Hi everybody! I'm Katherine from katherinesewing.com. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3, a self-taught sewist, and I love creating historically inspired garments. This dress that I have on is my latest creation. It's an 18th century inspired little black dress. So in other words, it's a modern dress that I can wear day to day, but it has 18th century details, such as the V-shaped waist at both the front and the back, as well as these little puffed sleeves, which may not exactly be 18th century per se, but they're certainly more vintage inspired. And finally, it has this center front hook and eye closure, which is very 18th century, and I used these really neat riveted steel hook and eye tape. So if you're interested in seeing how I made this right from the drafting of the pattern to the sewing, then please keep watching. Also, check out my accompanying blog post for this make, which will be on katherinesewing.com. Keep watching, guys! Okay, so I'm cutting out my bodice pieces here using my self-drafted pattern. Now the skirt pieces. And next I'll just be showing you a clip of when I had originally tried on my mock-up. I'll make this V-waist shallower. I will remove the cuffs from the sleeves, change the princess seams to armhole princess seams, and raise up the back neckline. Okay, so back to the final dressmaking. Here I'm going to be pinning together the front bodice pieces along that princess seam. And there, that's all sewn. Just showing the V-line waist. Here is a sleeve. I've already sewn a gathering stitch along the top and I'm adding one to the bottom. This will create the puff sleeve effect. And here's the skirt seam. I'm trimming it down before re-sewing that into a French seam with the edges fully enclosed. Okay, now I'm sewing together some bodice pieces here. Here's the sleeve. And here I'm sewing in one of the sleeves, it looks like. Okay, so I used strips of silk organza for interfacing, and I herringbone stitched these to the neckline and the waistline and the center front. This fabric was quite soft, so I felt it needed some support in these areas. And I also added it to the portion of the skirt which would have the hook and eye closure. Okay, so I just pinned the point at which the skirt will be sewn until. And now it's sewn, and I pressed under the seam allowances. And I will be hand stitching those down just so the stitching doesn't show through to the right side of the skirt. Okay, so here are the sleeves, and I'm just gathering up the hem of the sleeves before finishing them off with my strip of bias tape. So I machine stitched the first side and I'm trimming the seam allowance before turning it over and hand stitching the other side down. Okay, so this dress bodice was fully lined. So here I'm just attaching the lining to the main bodice along the neckline and the center front. And now that that is sewn, I'm trimming the seam allowance before I'll be turning it right side out and pressing it. Okay, so it's been pressed and I also understitched the seam allowance to the lining for a cleaner finish. Now this is the seam between the bodice and the skirt. I'm just trimming that down. Okay, now it looks like I'm adding my hook and eye tape along the center front. And I attach that using a single row of machine stitching and my zipper foot. And finally, I'm sewing the hem of the skirt using a strip of silk organza hidden inside for some extra stiffness at the hem. Okay everybody, so I finally finished my dress and I love it. In fact, this is probably the first garment that I've made where upon finishing it, I thought that I could definitely use the pattern again without any changes really. Usually when I make a garment from a self-drafted pattern, the process of making it reveals a lot of things that I would have rather changed. It's the first case where I really like it. It was very easy to sew, especially after my corset making adventure. This was a breeze to sew and I really like how it came out. I love the hook and eyes. I was a little worried that they would be too visible, but they turned out quite well, I think. And I love the V waist and the skirt. You can't tell from the video, but the skirt is just below the knee, so it's a good wearable length. And it turned out quite well. The only thing that might need a slight change is just the neckline. You'll see that during the making, I decided to lower the neckline a little bit more. And whenever you lower a neckline on a piece of fabric that's already been cut out, there is probably going to be a little bit of excess space. And because I was already in the fabric stage, it was too late to fix that. So the neckline gapes a little tiny bit, but it's not very noticeable. It's still quite wearable, especially with the tank top underneath. And I really like how it turned out. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope it was a learning experience for you. And please read the blog post for this make on katherinesewing.com. If you liked the video, just give it a thumbs up and leave your comments and questions below, and subscribe to my channel because it really helps me out. I'm a new channel and it's very encouraging for me. See y'all later, guys. Bye.